Kyle Larson wins the prestigious Chili Bowl Nationals for the second year in a row. ThorSport is making wholesale changes less than a month before the season starts. And PSA for all the kids out there, don't Snapchat and drive, especially if you're in a car at Daytona. I sound so old when I say that. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric, and welcome to Out of the Groove. It's a beautiful start to a beautiful week. We've got a lot to catch up on from this past weekend. Some of it NASCAR related, some of it less directly NASCAR related. There's controversy, there's surprising changes. We've got it all for you here in today's Out of the Groove. Let's dive right in. I want to kick things off with the Chili Bowl. All last week, the 35th annual Chili Bowl Nationals were taking place. It's a multi-day event. It's the most prestigious dirt midget event. It takes place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's a huge draw for racers from across the country, and that includes many stars from the NASCAR world. There were many familiar NASCAR names competing throughout the week, and of course, late in the day on Saturday. NASCAR had several notable drivers that qualified for the main event late Saturday night. Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, recent winners of the event, as well as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. This is the same event that Kyle Larson a couple years ago said he would rather win than the Daytona 500. Between 2017 and 2019, Christopher Bell won 3 straight Chili Bowl Nationals. Larson finally got the job done last year in 2020, and to no one's surprise, this year's race once again came down to Kyle Larson versus Christopher Bell. Larson managed to lead all 55 laps of the feature event, but he did face some heavy competition. Christopher Bell was hounding him late in that race until he flipped spectacularly with 2 laps to go. Luckily, Christopher Bell was okay. Joe Gibbs, is holding his breath somewhere. Kyle Larson went on to win his second straight Chili Bowl Nationals title. Congratulations to him. Several of his new Hendrick Motorsports teammates or affiliates were there as well, including William Byron, Chase Elliott, Jeff Gordon. Chase Elliott also raced in the Chili Bowl last week, and he actually managed to advance up to the F main. He didn't make it further than that, but he was still racing pretty late in the afternoon on Saturday for a guy who had not raced in a dirt midget car until just last month in December. Pretty impressive that Chase Elliott was able to hold his own as well as he did throughout the week in Tulsa. I'm not a dirt racing expert. I'm basing my opinion mainly off of what I've heard other dirt racing experts say the last few days. They are all, for the most part, were pretty impressed with Chase Elliott. They thought he showed up and put on an admirable performance during the week. So credit to Chase Elliott. I'm still really excited that he's jumping into so many different types of cars this offseason. Of course, the Rolex 24 here in a couple weeks is on deck. Elliott will be racing in that. Also, credit to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for finishing 7th in the main event. I mean, there's several hundred drivers that show up to this event, to this race. So to narrow it down to the final feature race and to finish 7th, credit to Ricky Stenhouse. Kyle Larson seems to be picking up 2021 exactly where 2020 left off. He was dominant on dirt last season, and now he'll be making his highly anticipated return to the NASCAR Cup Series, fresh off the heels of another triumphant victory at the Chili Bowl. It was a fun race to watch, even though it ran extremely late. Certainly is a spectacle that any motorsports fan should be able to appreciate. Now, also this weekend, it was the NFL playoffs. What is it, the divisional round? What was this week? I don't know. What I do know is that Fox Sports debuted their all-new Daytona NASCAR 2021 season commercial during their NFL games that they broadcast this weekend, and it's made a lot of rounds on social media because it's just a fantastic advertisement. The full minute-long version is spectacular. It focuses on highlighting a lot of the new changes for this season. It highlights Dirt Bristol, it highlights Circuit of the Americas, it highlights the new teams like 2311 Racing, the new broadcast booth like Jeff Gordon and Clint Boyer at Fox. The look of the commercial is fantastic. They utilized a lot of CG. They had some fun Days of Thunder style graphics they threw in there as well. And for a TV commercial, I thought the special effects they used to show the cars at Circuit of the Americas or Bristol Dirt, weren't too bad. But perhaps my favorite part of this commercial is the fact that they actually showed some of the most high-profile, most notable drivers acting. They got Jeff Gordon and Clint Boyer to, stare each other down. They got Ryan Blaney to say a good line. Kyle Busch has his, I'm just here so I don't get fined, ripping that off from Marshawn Lynch, but it's a good line and it's memorable if nothing else. They've got Denny Hamlin making a brief appearance. This commercial has a little bit of everything, so I think it's fantastic. Certainly better than, the Daytona Day ads from a few years back. There's really nothing to dislike about this ad in a year where there's a lot of changes, where if you're a casual NASCAR fan, you may be surprised when Circuit of the Americas pops up on the schedule. You may be surprised when the Brickyard 400 is no longer taking place at the Oval. It's important that the early promotional material highlights that and prepares those viewers for what to expect, while also being subtle about it. They also mentioned the Darlington throwback race and show that they're still paying homage, paying respect to the roots of the sport, all the heroes before now that have made NASCAR as great as it is. This commercial bridges both those gaps, and that's the gaps that NASCAR has been trying to carefully bridge for many years now, and I think in many cases they've fallen short. They've gone too far towards the new school, and they have not always shown enough interest in the old school type stuff. I thought this commercial did a tremendous job. I mean, you always have to be adapting, but it's important to remember how you got there. This commercial highlights the new and the old, the best of both. I think it's really good. I hope the rest of this year's, marketing push follows a similar suit. Anyway, if you've seen the commercial, which you probably have, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments. We also have to talk about this dumb controversy from this past weekend. So, ARCA Series driver Taylor Gray, he's 15 years old. He was participating in an open ARCA test at Daytona, the 2.5-mile version of Daytona. And some people pointed out that he posted a short video of himself driving in the car at speed to his Snapchat story, I believe. I don't even know what to think about that. I don't know what part of his mind thought this was a good idea, especially to post it. It's unclear at this point if he was, using his phone to take the videos, or if he was using like a GoPro camera that he just pulled out later and posted. It's unclear at this point, but either way, NASCAR has in the rulebook you can't have your phone in the car, and I believe it's also in the rulebook that you cannot have, an extra camera that is not approved by NASCAR. You especially cannot be holding a camera while driving. That's certainly against the rules. So according to reports, NASCAR has talked to Taylor Gray, and there is a very real possibility he will face some sort of penalty this week. He should. That's dumb. I mean, you look at the video, he doesn't appear to be around a lot of cars. We all know Daytona, especially when you're out there by yourself and mostly on the straightaway, as the video seems to suggest. You're not working that hard. It's not the hardest thing in the world. I could do it. Probably most all of you watching could do it. So I'm not going to overreact and say this is the worst thing ever. He's putting everyone in danger. I'm not going to go that far. It's certainly irresponsible, and he should be penalized for it. I don't know if NASCAR is going to react to it. I mean, the fact that he's 15, he's not even old enough to race at Daytona, and he's pulling out something like this, it just shows a lack of judgment. Don't text and drive, kids. Don't be on your phone and driving. And yes, that goes for when you're going 180 miles an hour at Daytona. I don't care if you're by yourself, there's nobody around you. You should not be texting or filming yourself and driving, or whatever the heck he might have been doing in this case. It sets a bad example, so NASCAR should penalize him. I don't know what the penalty should be. He shouldn't, get kicked out of the sport or anything like that. I'm not going to go that far, but man, if you're 15, you got to be on your best behavior, especially if you're getting the opportunity to drive at Daytona, a track you're not even old enough to race at for at least a few more years. Like, come on, you cannot do that. So I was disappointed to see that. I couldn't help but just shake my head when I saw the footage. What are kids thinking these days? Anyway, enough with the silly controversies. Let's talk about some actual news that broke this morning, Monday morning. ThorSport, Powerhouse Truck Series team, they're switching manufacturers, and they're announcing this less than a month before the season starts. They released this statement today. After a successful 3-year relationship with Ford, ThorSport Racing announces today that they have agreed to part ways ahead of the 2021 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series season. A complete driver and partnership lineup for ThorSport Racing will be released at a later date. We are more than halfway through the month of January. We are less than a month from Daytona, the Truck Series premiere at Daytona. The season is basically upon us, y'all. This seems like a very strange time to make such a dramatic announcement that you're completely changing the manufacturer you're working with. Now, I understand the Truck Series teams don't get quite the same support from manufacturers as, say, Hendrick is getting from Chevy or Joe Gibbs is getting from Toyota in the Cup Series, but manufacturer support still matters, still has an effect in trucks. And the fact that they say that their driver lineup is still TBA, they will announce it at a later date. I feel like this entire offseason we've all assumed their driver lineup was going to basically stay the same. I mean, sure, they've got some older drivers in their lineup like Johnny Sauter, who theoretically could get replaced. Matt Crafton's probably sticking around. Ben Rhodes, I know he ended last year in kind of a wild way, but he's probably sticking around too, at least per all the current reports. It'd be hilarious if he got replaced with Christian Eckes, who's I believe still looking for a competitive Truck Series ride, hopefully. But yeah, this seems like a major bombshell to be dropping on everyone, just a few weeks out from the first race of the season. I mean, I have a feeling most of their drivers will stay the same, if not all of them, from 2020 to 2021. According to multiple reports, it seems most likely that they will move to Toyotas this year. They'll move from F-150s to Toyota Tundras. ThorSport used to be Toyotas. They used to run Toyotas before they switched to Ford a few years back. Ooh, which actually makes that Christian Eckes theory a little bit better, assuming Eckes still has some ties to Toyota. This does seem like a pretty big loss for Ford. I mean, a lot of Ford's development drivers have lately been going through the DGR, David Gilliland camp. That's where Haley Deegan will be racing this next year full-time. She'll be in the 17 truck for DGR. But, losing out on a competitive 4-truck team, Ford, I mean, they only have 2 competitive two cars at all in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. They have the one Penske car and the one SHR car. Granted, those are maybe the two best cars in the whole series, but Ford, I'm worried Ford's losing a lot of seats in these lower NASCAR series. I mean, their next crop of development drivers, supposedly, where are they going to go? I mean, ThorSport was a fairly new Ford Truck Series team. They only ran Fords for about 3 years, I guess. And you look at their driver lineups, it's not like they were acting as a real landing place for Ford development drivers or anything like that. But still, losing a strong organization like that, if you're Ford, that's a little bit concerning. Hey, but Toyota's opening up more seats potentially on the Cup Series side of things here very soon, depending on how 23XI Racing grows. So yeah, Toyota may be back on the up and up. After a couple of years where it seemed like Toyota was waning, perhaps, Ford and Chevy had caught back up. I don't know, trying to expand their empire a bit once again. They're in the growing phase, and that's scary for some of the other manufacturers and other competition out there. I don't know, I thought that was interesting. I really don't know what to make of it, why this announcement would come so late. I'm really now just curious to see what drivers end up driving those cars. Does this reported switch to Toyota affect that? Does that cause someone like Christian Eckes or some other Toyota drivers to land rides ahead of Sauter or Enfinger? Are those guys going to be replaced by younger drivers? You never know. That's been the trend in NASCAR the last few years, and those two, as well as Crafton, and several others have kind of fought against that in the Truck Series the last few years, but I'm just speculating now, because when you make an announcement like this less than a month before the season, it leads to speculation, because this is surprising. This doesn't sound like it was planned months in advance. This sounds like something that came up kind of recently and perhaps is troubling to the teams and everyone involved. So we'll see what goes on with this. I don't know, just wanted to throw that out there. Who would you like to see drive for ThorSport if they do in fact switch to Toyota here before the 2021 season? Let me know down in the comments below. That's all I have to discuss today. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and of course a huge thank you to my amazing Patreon supporters. Could not do this show without their continued support. Thank you so much. Plenty more to come this week. Thank you all for sticking with me. I will see you all very, very soon. Take care, everyone.